Let's keep it moving with the Big Ten, a big matchup rematch from a few weeks ago. I was at Mackey for this game. Purdue
Yep.
at Michigan. So in Michigan for this one. And the Wolverines out to 2-point favorites. They open soft opener -1. Unsurprisingly, home tax comes in, and Michigan probably closes 2.5,
Yeah.
3 in this spot. So Purdue's ball pressure was big in this first matchup. Michigan had 22 turnovers. Unforced issues continue to be an issue for the Wolverines. Highest turnover rate in Big Ten play versus the highest turnover rate forced. Matt Painter, we mention it seemingly on every podcast when we talk about Purdue. He has done a great job adjusting from the Zach Edey era to this team, actually pressuring the ball now with Braden Smith and CJ Cox. Michigan on an 0-6 against the spread run in their last 6 games. Every single win for them seemingly by a point, 2 points. Every loss seemingly by around that number 2, including that overtime loss at Minnesota where Dawson Garcia had a
Oh
walk-off
man.
3-pointer. But
Did you see Dusty May's face? Did you
yeah,
see his face? I mean, I think I think it's crazy to think that every single person in the world isn't aware. It isn't used as bulletin board material. I mean, it is long before the legalization. Vegas odds and favorites and underdogs have long been a part of processes and on the understanding of sports. So I think he's
he
got to just be
understood.
rolling his eyes too, right? Like that's so
His
funny.
boosters are sitting there saying, I
It's
got Michigan -3.5.
it's just funny. It's fun. At the end of the day, it's almost hard to do. It's like when I go on an 0-7 streak, I'm like, I couldn't try to do this, right? Like it's hard. So, but yeah, man, I don't know. My bigger problem is right giving a team like Indiana the opportunity to even take that shot and cover is as big of a red flag as the cover to me. So yeah, it's a fluky, and maybe they should be expected to cover, and they were. It was a 7-point shot quality expected win, and guess what? Oregon an 8-point expected shot quality win, and you could have gotten some 7.5. But same point. They don't. At the end of the day, as a coach,
You
you
don't care.
might hear it. You might hear the chatter. It might make its way to your thought process a little, but you're winning. You are winning. Michigan is winning. They have taken what 2 losses since the middle of December. This team is doing everything they want to do. They do not care. They're not listening to anything at all. And so, in that sense, I think Purdue continues to be value against them because like you're almost going to get like the it can't keep happening type of thing, and it can because guess
That's
what,
the
they're
thing.
actually overrated still.
Where is, and it's hard, it's kind of crazy to say the bottom of the market for Michigan, but when is the buy point? Because the market keeps betting them up. This
They
game
have
is
to lose
fascinating.
games to that you
Right.
don't really get. I understand you lose spreads, but losing games is really kind of what drives buy points to me, much more than they didn't
Yeah,
cover the line in the sand. Well, who cares about the
I'm
line in the
with
sand? It
you.
probably moved 6 times during the day, and a million people have different bets cashing and winning, and that's why sports books are excited to take your action at +110 every single day, right? I mean, that's it. So evaluate the team. They do not defend the 3 well. They turn the ball over way too much. And they essentially boil it down to when we need a bucket, we can get it. We're not going to really let you look at the rim. We can pass really well, which again contributes to that when we need a bucket, we can get it type of thing. They move fast, but it can be a little reckless and a little clunky. Again, you got a 7 foot something guy dribbling the ball, by nature clunky.
He is
But look,
clunky.
he's clunky. Beaut to watch. Love watching Danny Wolf. Watched him make the tournament at Ivy Madness up at Levain Gym last year. So I watched him rip off the mask. He was literally dealing with the eye injury. He couldn't see the three.
Yeah.
He tore the mask off and he got them to the tournament, which of course now leads to this whole thing happening. Awesome moment. But I still think this is a spot where even at home, this is going to be a game. Um, and this is a big spot for Purdue to continue to exert some dominance over the conference. They are one of the best teams attacking the rim, shooting the three, passing. I just think they're too hyper efficient on offense to be gifting all those errors too, essentially, that Michigan is just going to continue to make, because you have to call a spade at this point.
Yeah, interesting game. We've kind of touched on motivation throughout this podcast. Both teams have a shot to win the Big Ten regular season title. So
Yeah.
definitely motivation on both sides. And then you look at Michigan within the context of their lack of covers or no covers in their last 6 games. Their last 4 wins, Indiana, Oregon, Rutgers, and Penn State. And one of those wins over Rutgers didn't have Dylan Harper. So how impressive really is that? And then on the flip side, Purdue takes down Iowa in its first game without Owen Freeman. Sure. And then they blitz USC over the weekend on Friday without Desmond Claude playing. So I go back and forth on, I think Michigan is, if you're going to ask me who's a paper tiger, I don't think Purdue's a paper tiger, but I think Michigan come tournament time, we may be looking at their resume and saying, yes, the pick and roll action with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden is great, but hello, paper tiger. So I just don't think,
I don't think paper tigers drop 90 multiple times in a couple months, personally. That's just, I think there's limits, right?
But are they fraudulent? Are they going to be a fraudulent number 3, number 4 seed?
They'll probably, you know what? No, I'm actually going to say no. I'm going to say no. The half-court offense is just too good, in my opinion. And, like, again, it's not like they can't run in transition either. I think this is maybe one of the best offensive and hybrid offense-defense balanced teams, especially in terms of that almighty shot quality. I think they're one of only a few teams that is ranked in the top 10 in both. Auburn, top 10 in both. Duke, Baylor, Louisville. I guess a lot of them are, because we have a pretty strong grasp of the top 10. But Purdue is one of those 6 teams that is. The rest are not. Texas Tech, 7. But anyway, we got a lot of parity at the top. That's pretty interesting. Anyway, it was a very tumultuous weekend, apparently. I think this is a good spot to continue to get in on Purdue. It feels like they aren't getting enough respect a little bit. It's kind of tough to have that happen, especially in a conference like the Big 10, 18. But, they still score so many points, and they're not shooting well from deep. Like, everything
That's a good point.
So good except the 3-point shooting. And I would be flummoxed, Eli is the word I'm going to pull out of my hat today, for them to continue to underperform their shot quality by 4% in Big Ten play. And guess what? This is the perfect spot
drop coverage defense,
right, to shoot lights out. And you're going to be like, where did this come from? Well, 96th percentile spacing, 98th percentile shot making, and 29th percentile shot selection for Purdue all of a sudden gets gifted the defensive shot making Swiss cheese of Michigan, and from 3-point defense, which again, it literally sits right now in the nation, catch and shoot 3, 297th.
Wow.
It's not great. And then the shot selection is not good either. So yeah, and everyone's hitting everything against them. So I think that continues to happen. Like, I don't know. Shot making is such an interesting stat from shot quality. It kind of evaluates how good you are at taking the shots you do based on how much better you do at them than the average person in college basketball, essentially. But then we also have it as a defensive metric, which essentially kind of tells you how much better people are shooting against you than average. And Michigan's at 360th in the defensive side. So everyone seems to be walking in against Michigan and, according to shot quality, hitting things at a 98th percentile rate.
But that's the defense.
Right, but at some level, you got to give them one standard deviation of allowance and say, all right, they're still 77th, bottom 77th percentile defense, and everyone's going to walk in and shoot better than normal against them. And if you give that to Purdue, I think Purdue gets a bigger advantage than anything Purdue is going to give back to Michigan. And that's where the data says take the Boilermakers here.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a bet on the game, but I tend to agree with you. And that kind of correlates with my thought process of, to me, Michigan is going to be a fade at some point. in the tournament, whether it's in the first, second, Sweet 16, whatever it may be. You go back to that first matchup, Purdue shot just under 38% from three. I remember watching the game in person. Lawyer was getting a ton of good looks against Michigan's ball screen drop coverage. If I'm going to bet aside, if I had to bet aside, it would be Purdue. So you and I have a similar thought process. And Michigan's drop coverage defense, or bad drop coverage defense, certainly correlates with shot qualities data from that standpoint.